Heyo. Snap. Hello, creative community. I am here today to talk to you about the 4 most common mistakes that new writers make while drafting their manuscripts. I definitely made all of these. Keep watching to find out if you're making these mistakes too and what you can do to fix them. Picture this. You're writing your first novel. The words are flowing. You're feeling inspired. You finish a chapter and you share it with someone else who just isn't feeling the same way about everything you just poured your heart and soul into. Chances are you're making one, if not all 4 of these common mistakes. The first whoops I want to talk to you about is the misuse of verbs. This one's actually a really easy fix if you know what you're looking for. See, a lot of us new writers think we need more words and flowery descriptions to get our points across, but the truth is it actually takes the opposite to really pack a punch with your writing. Take a look at these 2 sentences. Carly quickly picked up the keys from the top of the table versus Carly snatched the keys from the tabletop. The second sentence is far more precise than the first. It uses fewer words, but it has a stronger verb while clearly revealing Carly's rushed mood. Let's compare another example. Logan ran swiftly to the barn to see what was wrong versus Logan darted toward the barn. Something was wrong. The first sentence tells us that Logan was in motion, but it's really hard to see the urgency, while the second sentence really sets the mood with a strong verb. Here's a hint for avoiding this mistake. If you feel the need to use an adverb in your sentence, you probably don't have a strong enough verb. Have you ever heard of comparatives? You know, good, better, best. Well, while you're writing, you're not looking for what's good or what's better. You're looking for what's best. You want to use the best verb that you can that will help you be precise and to the point, very direct with your sentences. If you're having a hard time coming up with strong verbs on your own, open up a thesaurus. Look at synonyms. Expanding your vocabulary is an excellent way to use precise and direct words. Okay, this leads me to the second mistake that I want to talk about today. We've all heard the phrase show, don't tell when it comes to writing, but what exactly does that mean? It means you're going to show the action of your characters through their body language rather than telling your readers how they feel. Let's compare 2 sentences. One that tells the reader what the character's feeling and the other one that shows the reader what's happening. Margie was mad. Her sister embarrassed her in front of the entire class. Versus, Margie's cheeks went hot. Her blood boiled. She told her sister that secret in confidence, and now the whole class was staring at her, laughing and pointing fingers. Can you see how the first example tells the reader what's happening, but the second one immerses the reader into the scene? In the second example, we experience what Margie is feeling, but we also can see what's happening in the room. Let's do another comparison. Dan felt sad as he looked out over the ocean versus Dan's eyes welled with tears as he stood on craggy cliffs above the ocean waves. We can see right away that the second sentence is far better than the first. Not only do we know that Dan is sad, but we can see that he's about to cry. We also know exactly where he is in perspective to the ocean. Whereas in the first example, we don't know if he's standing on the shore, on a boat, or somewhere off in the distance. An excellent way to show instead of tell is to incorporate all of your characters' senses into your writing. A lot of new writers make the mistake on focusing solely on what the character sees because they're trying so hard to paint a picture for their reader. But readers want to be immersed, so think not only about what your character sees, but what they feel, what they hear, what they smell, what they taste. Mistake number 3 that I want to talk about today is choosing passive voice over active voice. I still make this mistake more often than I'd like to admit. In a sentence that uses passive voice, the subject is often acted upon, while a sentence that uses active voice, the subject does the action. Let me show you some examples. Fruit was growing off the branches of the tree versus the tree grew fruit from its branches. Passive voice usually requires a lot more words than active voice, and it's a lot less precise. We can also detect passive voice by how often we use being verbs, like am, is, was, were, be, being, been. Let's look at one more example and see if you can identify the being verb. The guitar was being played by the rock star versus the rock star played the guitar. You always want the thing that performs the action to be the focal point of the sentence, not the afterthought. In these examples, we want the rock star to be the subject, not the guitar. All right, one more mistake that I want to talk about is the misuse of similes. This one's a little more opinionated than the last three, but I think it's worth making note of. A simile is a comparison using the transition word like or as. A lot of times, writers use similes to expound on a visual description or to add poetic flair. But similes don't always work the way we want them to for our readers. In order for a simile to work, it has to be done in the right context. It needs to make sense within the style of your manuscript. For example, you probably shouldn't make a pop culture reference in a historical fiction book. Let's take a look at an example. The knight's armor shone like the polished chrome of a brand new hubcap versus the knight's armor shone like the light of a full moon. Now, both of these similes could probably be used in a manuscript depending on the style and genre of the book, but one of them is going to be a lot more appropriate for a medieval fantasy than the other one. Can you guess which one it is? A good rule of thumb is not to use comparisons that your main character wouldn't understand, especially if you're writing in first person. Think about the world you're creating and make references within that world. Using similes in this style will help strengthen the overall world building of your manuscript. That's all I have for today, but if you found this video helpful, be sure to subscribe to my channel and tap that bell button so you can be one of the first to know when a new video launches. I'm Cheyenne Cleveland, and thank you for joining me on my journey to becoming a self-published author. Until next time, happy writing!